وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر وعبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
Good morning and thank you for being with us. This is the Local Connections with Khalil Hachem, editor of Ivf Michigan.com, the fastest growing digital business magazine in the Middle Eastern communities in Michigan. Welcome to this sunny, toasty day in Michigan, and thank you for being with us. Temperature is expected to reach the 90s. Enjoy the warmth and be safe. The number here is 248-557-3300. Please give us a call should you have any questions or comment. After 11 days of carnage in the Middle East, Hamas and Israel have reached a ceasefire. The guns are silent, and the planes are not in the air anymore. Both sides are licking their wounds, and Palestinians continue to bury their dead. About 250 people died in Gaza. Mostly are women and children. Hundreds are wounded. 12 Israelis are dead, and hundreds are wounded as well. Now we'll pick up the pieces. Our communities has rallied with thousands of people demonstrating the war against civilians in the Gaza Strip. Non-profit organizations are mobilizing to provide support for Gaza. Now is the time we come together, we see what we can do for the victims of the war in Gaza. With us this morning is Imad Hamad, Executive Director of the American Human Rights Council, a man who has always been fighting for equality and justice. Imad, good morning.
Good morning, Khalil, and thank you for your listeners, and thank you to the invite being part of this great discussion.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, and thank you for being with us, getting up early in the morning. So now what do we do? And you know, it seems like our community really stepped up for support for the victims in Gaza.
Well, first, one lesson that this latest cycle of renewed war against Palestinians, especially against the besieged Gaza Strip, showed again that the language of war, the military and artillery bombardment against Palestinians under occupation will never win. 73 years of the age of this conflict, of this war, of this occupation, showed clearly that the Israeli occupation and the Israeli power, regardless what it is, regardless what they do, regardless of whatever war techniques they use to compel Palestinians to surrender, to compel Palestinians to give up their basic human rights of statehood and self-determination, failed. This is a new failure again. This is a new attestation that the language of war will never win. And the only possible way to end this conflict is simple. The solution is simple, ending the occupation and granting Palestinians their basic human rights. Israel have three choices here. Either one, non-sectarian state that treat all of its citizens equally and respectfully with fully equal rights, or simply two-state solution and coexistence that grant the same and equal basic rights of safety and democracy for both sides, or simply the third choice, which is being a state of apartheid. And Israel, over the past 73 years, chose to be an apartheid state. So as long as Israel practice apartheid and being biased as racist against Palestinians and against even its own quote-unquote citizens who are Arab Israelis, Palestinian Israelis, then we can see the hope of peace refreshing. I hope that the current ceasefire be a new gateway where not only Israel, but also the whole world, the international community, and more so our U.S. administration, to wake up and smell the coffee and do simply what's right.
Absolutely. Our community has stepped up pretty well. Are you happy with what you've seen in this community support for the victims in Gaza?
Well, it was gratifying, actually, to see that our community and all fellow Americans, peace-loving people from across the state of Michigan, across America, and across the globe. That was not an exception, what we saw in Dearborn. However, Dearborn have a special status here because it's the home for the largest Arab American, Muslim American population. So in many cases, it set the tone, and in many cases, the whole world, the whole United States looked at Dearborn. I take a pride of our young and youth. I think our young and youth, the second and the third generation, they took the leadership. They assumed the leadership. They initiated the action. They didn't wait for my generation or the typical traditional leadership to call for action or initiate action. They poured to the streets from every corner, from every end. As a parent now, not as an activist, I was so proud of my kids, and I talked to so many other parents who were as proud, seeing their young and youth acting in their own, going out, passionate, showing their attachment for justice, their love for justice, carrying the torch of justice, not only for Palestinians, for justice for everyone, equally for all.
Everyone,
and
exactly.
That made me feel so proud to see my kids and other young taking the lead. And I think this is here a very bright, promising a future ahead of us. We always refer to the young and the youth as the future, as the leaders of tomorrow, or as our future leaders. No, they are the leaders today, and they are the leaders tomorrow. And I think what they did throughout the past 11 days of daily activities and daily marches attested to that fact. So it's very gratifying. I think when we say Palestinian lives matter, Palestinians deserve to breathe, it's the same like we say in Black Lives Matters, all life matters. The human life is precious to everyone, and the value of a human life is not determined by its race, faith, or nationality. And that's the bottom line to it. What Palestinians face for the past 11 days is a genocide. It's war crimes. And time is due for the international community and the U.S. administration and President Biden to seize the occasion and restore the American role and the American leadership for being an honest and neutral, balanced peace broker, not just continue with the prior policies of providing unconditional aid to Israel without holding Israel accountable to its actions here.
Did you? I mean, you've been involved in these activities for some time. Fighting for justice. Did you notice that it is different this time, that the community was far more effective than before?
Indeed, I think there is a great shift here, and I think that's why I'm very gratified and happy. For us as elders who've been active for the past year, that's what you expect, that our young and youth, that so many may assume that they are carefree and they don't care as much, they are not as passionate as much, they're not as attached as much. Once again, they teach us a lesson, and they show us an example that their passion to justice and their passion to defend what is right is beyond our imagination. I think the young and the youth in America, our young Arab Americans, Muslim Americans, cross all the whatever barriers you could say, if we call them as barriers. Look, I saw young Palestinians, young Jordanians, young Syrians, young Yemenis, young Lebanese, young Iraqis. You saw everyone in the best. It showed America at its best. It showed the true American will for justice and the American passion for justice. Not enough is enough. I think this young generation, if President Biden were to meet and discuss the Arab-Israeli war or the Palestinian-Israeli war, should meet with these young before he meets with the typical traditional leadership of the community. Because these young reflect the pulse, reflect the pulse of every one of us.
Yeah. This is the future. What are we doing as a community now to help us as far as a humanitarian, with the humanitarian crisis?
Well, first, definitely, the high toll of victims of Israeli crimes, which is crimes against humanity. Palestinians, they're gonna try to deal with the grief and try to deal with the massive destruction. Let's not forget that the Israeli frustration and desperate to win this war led Israel to launch a mad, crazy war against targeting Palestinian residents and civilians while they are sleeping. Even the media personnel were not spared out of this Israeli outrage. I think Palestinians are used to this pain and suffering. It's not that they love it. It's not that they look for it. It's not that they want it. It's been imposed on them. But Palestinians showed over the past long years that this is not going to fly with them, and they are willing and more than ready to sacrifice more and more. So time is due for our community the same way they stood firm against injustice, against the Israeli apartheid, and against the Israeli oppression and aggression. Time is due to now shift the focus in two directions. One, definitely provide the much-needed humanitarian aid to support the victims of war and to support the people under the occupation of, and especially in the besieged Gaza. And second, to continue our political active engagement, because this is, I cautiously welcome the ceasefire. Israel is known that it could backtrack any minute, so it's too early to affirm and feel relaxed and rest that this is it, this is going to hold. We have to be extra cautious about it. We want peace. We are a peace-loving people. But peace cannot be built without justice. No justice, no peace.
Absolutely.
As long as the occupation exists, that peace will never take course. We are peace-loving people. Absolutely. Our young generation, our people, our community, all peace-loving people need to continue the engagement, because this is a reminder. This is a painful reminder. This is another painful reminder to all of us and to our U.S. administration. Time is overdue to do what's right and what's ethical. And we're not asking much. And this is why we need to continue the effective engagement, and hold our elected officials locally and nationally accountable. No longer that they come to us when they need our vote, and they give us the best speeches and preaching during the electoral counts and the electoral rounds. This is the time where we say enough is enough, enough is free ride, and we want our elected officials to do what's right. There are few elected officials in Michigan, like Congresswoman Dingell, Blade, Beatles, Senator Beatles to a certain extent. They tried. I think the exception in the book was Dingell and Clare, but on the local level here in Michigan. But beyond that, I think they were a complete silence. Shame. We're not asking them to boycott Israel. We're not asking that. We don't expect them to do so. We understand the power of the lobby and the special interest and the long-term U.S. foreign policy towards this. But we expect them to do the minimum, and the minimum is for them, for Senator Stabenow, for Senator Dieters, for Congresswoman Lawrence, for others, just to call for a ceasefire, just to take a humanitarian stance. nothing more, nothing beyond that. Even this was too much for them to dare and say it.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Imad, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Final thought, if anybody needs to reach you, if they want to provide any help, how they can reach you?
They can call us at 313-790-8453, 313-790-8453. I want to say that when we speak loud and clear in support of Palestinians, we didn't take away our partners in peace from the Jewish American community and fellow Jewish across the world, even many Israelis in Israel itself who stood by and condemned the Israeli atrocities and aggression and oppression and apartheid practices against Palestinians. So peace is our destiny. Peace is what we seek for, but we never expect peace to be achieved without rendering the basic human rights of Palestinians and basically their right for statehood and self-determination, period.
Thank you so much, Imad. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
While we've been staying safe at home, scientists have been on a journey. The destination, a COVID-19 vaccine. This journey began decades ago with research into other coronaviruses. Scientists built from there with months of research and development, cooperation with other experts worldwide, and clinical trials on tens of thousands of volunteers of diverse race, age, and health status. They arrived at a safe, effective vaccine, and hundreds of thousands in Michigan have already been vaccinated. But the next step is ours. We need to get the vaccine when we can. Keep wearing masks correctly and taking precautions until we reach our destination, freedom from COVID-19, and getting back to the lives we love. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Ziad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Dana, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziad.com. That's www.ziad.com. Ziad, quality products from our family to yours.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263. Enjoy the first Syrian-style cuisine in Michigan. At Damas Cuisine and Catering, you'll find a wide selection of Syrian foods and sweets in our menu, like frikeh, hoisin, grape leaves with steak, mishawi platter, hot mahashi, char-grilled kebab, shawarma, and much more. Get super fast delivery from Damas Cuisine and Catering right to your door. Order online at damascuisine.com/menu and track your order live. Damas Cuisine and Catering, 28841 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Call 248-987-4985.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. We're talking about the events in the Middle East and specifically in Gaza. And our community has stepped up in record numbers to really support the innocents in that war. And when President Biden came to town, our leaders, talked to him and explained to him what he needed to do and what needs to be done. And one of those leaders is Representative Abdallah Hammoud. Good morning, Representative.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you? And thank you so much for being with us. General thoughts about how our community responded to this tragedy in Gaza?
I'm proud of our community. I mean, I think we held a protest to the tune of 10,000 people in the streets. Plus, I think we also had a follow-up protest when Biden arrived, making sure that our voices were heard and that we were seen in the streets, speaking to what we know to be true, and that is that the Palestinian people have been ethnically displaced and ethnically cleansed people under the oppressive apartheid regime of the Israeli government. And then, after we also had leaders who were having roundtable conversations, who were approaching President Biden, like Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who spoke with President Biden on the tarmac. I mean, the first conversation he had off the plane was in regards to Palestine. And so having leaders like that certainly helps advance our voices in this community far, further than we could have ever expected several years ago.
Absolutely. Now, you presented him a letter. What did you want? What was your message to him?
I had the opportunity to speak with President Biden for, about 2 minutes. When I approached him wearing my kufiyya mask, he actually opened up the conversation with me. I think upon seeing my mask, he quickly opened up and said, I want you to know I'm doing everything that I can. And so knowing that I only had a short time, I thought appealing to his humanity would be the strongest appeal you can make, because I do find President Biden to be somebody who has displayed that humanity along the campaign trail and over his years of service, speaking to the similarities between many of our community members and between the president himself, children of working class families, him and I, people who both got into public service after losing beloved family members, but then reminding him that, isn't that why we're here? Because we want to push forward and represent our communities truthfully and justly in their spirit and their honor. And it was on that note that I pulled out the letter and I asked the president for his commitment to read this letter that I had written regarding Palestine. And he gave me his word that he not only would read, but that he would respond.
Wonderful. How do you describe his response? I mean, the timing that he came to Dearborn at that time says a lot. And I don't know if it was an accident or not, but it really says a lot that he came to this community. What do you think how do you describe his response?
I'd say in person, the words of we're doing everything that I can, and the president oftentimes comes off as, very often, he comes off as sincere. I think it's one of the attributes he has and why he's president today. But I think we have to look at more than just his words. It's one thing to say we're doing everything I can, and then another thing to block a UN resolution calling for a ceasefire. It's one thing to say I'm doing everything that I can, and then push forward an arms deal to the tunes of $735 million to the Israeli military. And so, I've learned in my years in office and in advocacy on this specific issue that it's not just about what people say. We have to look at the actions of what they do. My letter concludes on the note that a ceasefire is just the first step. And this was before the ceasefire was called, knowing that eventually it would come. But we now have to work towards a free Palestine. And I think America has all the tools at its disposal. The president has everything that he needs. And he knows more about this issue than many. And so we don't need to educate him on the facts. We just need him to realize, and for America to wake up and realize that they are on the wrong side of history, and history will not vindicate their actions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, our community has grown tremendously. I mean, we have people almost in every branch of government. You've been serving for 4 years now, is that correct?
Yeah, this is my 5th year. So.
Your 5th year, okay. And, I can't have you on the show, excuse me, and don't ask you about your campaign. You're running for mayor in Dearborn. What's next, and why do you want to run for that post?
Running for mayor is about giving back at the highest position in the city to the community that gave myself and they gave me and my family everything. My parents who immigrated here, myself and my siblings who were born and raised here, and as somebody who, my wife and I reside here who want to grow our family here. Over the last several years, we've seen there have been many challenges and issues that have faced Dearborn residents that have not been tackled, whether it's high property taxes, whether it's the speeding and traffic incidents throughout our neighborhoods. But also now throughout the pandemic as well, we see some new challenges that are emerging. Whether it's making sure that we have a long-term plan, sustainable plan, to make our community, to keep our community safe, but also ensuring that we don't fall into a post-pandemic recession. So empowering our small businesses, making sure we have a strong economic plan. And in conversations with family, and we felt like this is the place where we can give back to the greatest degree to the city that we all love. And so just super excited at the opportunity to continue the work that we've been working on in Lansing, to elevate it, to amplify what we've been working on, from environmental justice to small business support to the public health efforts to the improvement of the quality of life to Dearborn residents. And inshallah, with the support of the community, we'll be successful in this endeavor.
What do you think is the most pressing issue in Dearborn?
If you ask the residents, the top two issues that I think seem to surface, one is obviously the property taxes. In many ways, our property taxes ballooned following the economic recession of 2007, 2008. It's pushed many families away, especially new homeowners, because they're the ones who feel it most. That's the one opportunity that the city has to uncap the taxes based on, the law that passed, decades ago. And so a lot of new family owners are realizing that the economic value or argument to Dearborn is not justified. I can move to Northville, Livonia, Canton, get a bigger house for the same value, get more land, and pay less in property taxes, and my services are just as good. And the school system is just as good. And so you find people saying, I can drive the 20 minutes to Dearborn to pick up anything else I need to see family. I think another major issue that we're hearing a lot about is the traffic incidents, the safety of our roadways in our neighborhoods. We see major car accidents each and every single day. And these are car accidents, the frequency in which they happen, the amount of speeding that happens, and the points given to individuals driving recklessly, rightfully so. But it's also adding to the increasing car insurance rates. I mean, you can only pass so much reform. And the reform that was passed in Lansing was not perfect, but it tried to alleviate and provide families with rate relief. But it's also hard that Dearborn is a high-risk city because of the number of accidents and speeding drivers that we have. And so if we can tackle the issue of speeding in a smart and preventative fashion, not only do you make your neighborhood safer as it pertains to those speeding in the streets for our children and for those playing outside, but you also have a longer-term solution to beginning to gradually reduce our auto insurance rates by decreasing the risk of the city of Dearborn.
Absolutely, absolutely. And out of fairness to all the people who are running here at USR Radio, we're going to be having segments with every candidate running for mayor, so we can give everybody equal chance to discuss this. And then we're going to be talking to you, Representative Hammoud, again, so we can talk in depth about your plans. It's one thing to identify the issues. Another thing is what you're going to do about it. And then you're going to save that discussion for later. Now, for Gaza, if people need help, or are you doing anything that people need to know about?
We're elevating the voices of our community members. I largely believe that as it pertains to the protests or the rallies, or tonight there's a candlelight vigil, it's not necessarily supposed to be the platform for electeds to come forward and speak, but for us to be there and to listen to the stories and the cries and the pain of the community members, and that's what we'll be doing tonight. I'll be at the candlelight vigil. I know there will be protests this weekend that we will try to do our best to be a part of, as we were previously, and continue to use our platform to share information. If you look at my Facebook or Instagram and our stories, I'm just continuously sharing factual information, what's happening on the ground, the stories, the pictures, the images, to try to change the narrative, to educate folks who are not educated. And I think I saw somebody tweet something perfectly. If you have the depth to understand cryptocurrency, you can very easily understand the plight of the Palestinian people. It's not a complicated issue. There are no two sides to this issue. It's just the one side of justice and humanity. And inshallah, with time, we are seeing the narrative change before our eyes. And if we stay steadfast, I think we can change the direction and the course in which America has been taking.
I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate all you do for us. And then we'll be talking soon about the elections.
Inshallah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. nights out on the town with friends, game days with your favorite sports teams, and the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful, because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab offers a great array of your favorite Mediterranean meals. Meals range from lamb specialties, shawarma sandwiches, and seafood dinners. Plus, they offer big trays of your favorite food and so much more. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab is located at 32839 Northwestern Highway in Farmington Hills and is open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So stop in or call Kashat's today at 248-538-9552. That number again, 248-538-9552. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab will definitely leave you satisfied. When it comes to reproductive medicine, Ivf Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of Ivf Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
Welcome back and thank you for being with us. We're going to continue the conversation about the tragedy in Gaza and the 11 days where more than 250 innocent people died and were killed, and mostly women and children. It was really... but before anything, I just want to let you know, Gaza is this densely populated area. It's not what you think. It's not like a country by itself. It's this area that is blocked off by Israel and then blocked off by Egypt, and people can't even get their basic stuff. So the situation there is very depressing, and they need a lot of help. And we're going to continue our discussion with our good friend Amer Zahr. Amer is a law professor. He's a comedian, and he's an activist for civil rights and for equality and justice for the Palestinians. Good morning, Amer. Thank you for being with us.
Khalil, good morning. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being with us, and I know what it means to you to be up early, but this is a worthy cause, and I thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. In general, what's the update? What do we need to know?
Well, as everyone knows, yesterday there was a ceasefire reached, and the president made an announcement about it. Now, look, let's see. In 2014 war in Gaza, which everyone remembers, where 2,000 civilians were killed by the Israelis in over 50 days, there was 3 or 4 ceasefires during that during that particular episode. So let's see in the next day or two if this holds. This moment is different. I mean, the events that led to this, well, obviously the events that led to this have been going on for 73 years, but, I'm sure I wasn't listening before, but you might have been talking about the events of Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in Jerusalem, where...
Yeah, actually, I saved that for you to talk about because I'd like you to provide very brief history so our listeners would know what the history of that neighborhood.
Okay. So there's a neighborhood in East Jerusalem called Sheikh Jarrah. It's a very old neighborhood. It's actually named after Salah ad-Din's surgeon, Jarrah. So it's a very old neighborhood, and it's been a Palestinian Arab neighborhood for centuries. There were some families that were moved into that neighborhood after 1948. Remember, in 1948, 750,000 to 900,000 Palestinians were ethnically cleansed and made refugees by the State of Israel. Some of those moved into East Jerusalem in this neighborhood called the Sheikh Jarrah. The Jordanian government moved them there. Now, in the past many years, there have been Israeli settler groups, some of them American, who have done their best to get those residents out and replace them with Jewish settlers. So, get Palestinians out and replace them with Jews. We have a name for that. That's called ethnic cleansing. They've been trying to ethnically cleanse that neighborhood, just like they've been trying to ethnically cleanse Palestine. And they were trying to do that through the courts. What happened a couple months ago is the lower courts decided that, yes, these people should all be, they call it evicted. These people should all be evicted. Not only that, the courts ordered every one of those Palestinian residents that they were about to evict to pay $20,000 in legal fees to all these settlers. Well, that's how the sort of demonstrations
to the settlers, they want to pay. They're being evicted. They want to pay money to the settlers too.
Correct. The court ordered the tenants who were being evicted to pay each settler $20,000 in legal fees for the hassle of having to go to court to evict these Palestinians.
My God.
That was when the first thing started in Jerusalem, as we saw, and we saw the campaigns on Facebook and Instagram of the hashtag of Save Sheikh Jarrah, Unqudhu Sheikh Jarrah, Hayy Sheikh Jarrah, and that was what led to a lot of popular demonstrations throughout all of Palestine, everywhere, including what we call the 1948 lands and the West Bank and Gaza. The element of Hamas entering started about 12 or 13 days ago. The point I'm making is that the Sheikh Jarrah thing still has not been resolved. That's now in the Supreme Court, who has put it off a couple times. They're supposed to rule on it, I think, in another 15 days or so. And that particular injustice is likely still going to happen. So this uprising, this sort of moment that we're in is not over simply because there was a ceasefire signed yesterday, which might not last anyway. And let's be clear, it's important when we talk about these things that we use the right words. This is a good time to re-educate ourselves on terminology.
Yes.
It's not a conflict.
Yes.
It's an occupation. It's not a conflict. It's apartheid. It's not evictions. It's ethnic cleansing. My grandmother was kicked out of her house in 1948 and replaced with another group of people. She was the wrong religion for them. She was the wrong race for them. That's not, we have a name for that. It's called ethnic cleansing. There are separate roads for Jews and non-Jews in the West Bank. We have a name for that. It's called apartheid. It's very important that we advocates of Palestine, and especially Arab Americans, always use the right terminology. Yes, these words are not nice. It's not nice to have to say these words, but they reflect the reality on the ground. And so this campaign of ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem, which is part of a larger campaign for 73 years, is not over, and this uprising is not over.
Now, the term ethnic cleansing, you're a legal person. Does it really fit all the criteria? What's going on in there?
Yes. I mean, ethnic cleansing technically is basically a campaign to, rid a certain land of a group of people because of their, race, religion, ethnicity, culture, whatever. And it's almost as if this word was written for Palestine. This is exactly what's been going on. In 1948, you had about 800,000 Palestinians kicked out of their land or leaving their land out of fear, one or the other, because there were Jewish paramilitary gangs and Jewish armies coming into their villages, committing massacres, committing evictions, quote unquote, pushing people out. That's called ethnic cleansing. What makes ethnic cleansing is the why. So, you're a journalist. We answer what, where, when, why, how, right? The what, people getting kicked off their land. The what is important. But ethnic cleansing is about the why. Why is this happening to these people? If it's happening to these people because the people are kicking them out are doing it because of their race or their religion or their culture or their ethnicity, then that's ethnic cleansing. And that's exactly what's trying to happen. In Jerusalem, they are trying to kick out these families and replace them with Jewish settlers. Kick out these Arab, and in this case they all happen to be Muslim, I think. Kick out these Arab Muslim families and replace them with Jews. That's called ethnic cleansing. Yes, there's a name for that. It's not a nice word, but we have to use it. Ethnic cleansing. And if we have any people listening in Arabic when they use this word in Arabic, the term, because we don't hear it a lot, the term would be tathir al-arqi. So we use it in English, ethnic cleansing, in Arabic, tathir al-arqi.
Absolutely, absolutely. How could they get away with it? I mean, this is against international law.
Right. We always ask ourselves, how could Israel get away with it? There's two answers to this question. The first answer is Israel itself. So remember, Israel is not sort of like a normal country where people have rights that are universal and it's a democracy. And no, Israel is a country that says Jews have more rights than non-Jews, just like South Africa was a country that said whites have more rights than blacks. Just like America, 70 years ago, especially in the South, under these regimes that we call Jim Crow laws, America legally was a country that said whites have more rights than other people. So the first thing to understand is that when terribly racist things happen against Palestinians in quote-unquote Israel, it's not sort of like a singular terrible episode. It is the default state of affairs. This is how Israel operates. It's a Jewish supremacist country and nation and society, and that means the courts are part of that, the Knesset, the parliament is part of that, the leader is part of that. The whole ideology is about Jewish supremacy and getting Palestinians out. And then, of course, you have the added thing, the second thing, which is the protection of the United States. The $4 billion a year that goes to the Israeli military. The political protection. Just in these last 2 weeks, you had President Biden saying that we have unwavering support for Israel. You have him saying that they were not overreacting in Gaza. You have him approving $735 million in new arms sales to the Israeli government. And then you have him directing his UN ambassador 3 times in the past week to veto Security Council resolutions that might have called for a ceasefire or toning everything down over there. The protection of the United States is how Israel gets to do all these things. And, of course, that happens from the lobby here, which spends $100 million a year to help lobby Congress people in favor of the U.S.-Israel relationship. So 2 things. How does Israel get away with it? 2 things. Because they're racist and they have the protection of the largest, most powerful country in the world. Just yesterday when Biden announced a ceasefire, he started with saying Israel has a right to defend itself. They were knocking down entire residential high-rises in Gaza. And he gets on and says Israel has a right to defend itself. They were killing women and children. They have a right to defend themselves. This is talking points. These are bought and paid for talking points by the Israeli lobby that the President of the United States is repeating, and he's been trained on these talking points for 40 years. That's how these things happen.
Absolutely. You know, I can't, with all the tragedy that's going on and with all the history, but still I can't help but ask the question here as a journalist, was it the right decision for Hamas to, to launch rockets on Israel, and then, see, the word to start this is not correct, because this has been started a long time ago. But, to flare up this episode, if that's the right word. And if I'm not saying it right, please correct me.
Well, I mean, look, do we ask a victim, do we judge how a victim reacts to their abuser? Do we, when we thought about apartheid in South Africa, did we ever call it a conflict? Did we ever call slavery a conflict? Did we call the Holocaust a conflict? Did we judge how the victims of those things reacted under the intense pressure and the intense humiliation that they were going under every day? Khalil, I hope you get the chance to go to Palestine one day. It is the most beautiful land on planet Earth, with all my respect to other countries. It is the most beautiful land on planet Earth, and it is one of the most significant lands on planet Earth. Whenever I go there, I understand why the Israelis want to steal it from us. It's beautiful. And if you go there, though, you will also experience firsthand, as an Arab, the terrible discrimination that happens when you enter a border crossing, whether it's at the airport or through the West Bank, of being set aside for hours simply because you're Arab, and watching Jews and white people walk right through without any problem at all. And then you'll go through a checkpoint in the West Bank and see how they treat Palestinians like animals through these checkpoints, and treat them like they are not worth even the most basic human rights. And then you will see how there are Israeli military throughout the West Bank pointing guns in the face of families. Hopefully you got a chance to watch this Netflix movie called The Present that came out just this last few months, that was nominated for an Oscar. It's only 20 minutes long. I encourage everybody to watch it. It's called The Present, El Hadiyah, on Netflix. It's only 20 minutes long, and it shows all these things. When you see all these things and the daily humiliation, having to ask for a permit to go work a few miles away, and then having to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because it takes 5 hours just to get to work, which is 10 kilometers away, simply because you're a Palestinian and have to go through a number of checkpoints, and they do that every day so they can put food on their table. The humiliation of the occupation, the racism, the discrimination, the dehumanization of our people. And when you see all that, you could only come to the conclusion that Palestinians are the most peaceful people on planet Earth, because the fact that we don't react to these things in a violent way every day shows that we want peace, shows that we just want to live a normal life. And so these little episodes that happen every now and then, we don't judge an abuser. We don't judge a victim on how they react to their abuser who has been abusing them for 73 years.
Absolutely.
So I'm not mad at you, Khalil, but I'm not really interested in talking about judging what Hamas does or doesn't do. I'm ideologically not a supporter of Hamas. You know me. I'm a secular person. I'm not a real religious guy.
Sure.
But we don't judge victims on how they react to their constant abuser. So that's what I have to say about that.
Absolutely. I lived under occupation for an entire year, and it was one of the most difficult time in my life, where the daily harassment, the evening they bust into our homes for no reason, they prevent you from going to school, you stay at the checkpoint for days just because you're going to get some grocery and things like that, that daily humiliation. And I always tell people that, sometimes people don't have the luxury of really sitting and rationalizing about how I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You're going to become reactionary. So it's not an easy thing. And I've forgotten a lot of things in my life, but those images of routing us in schools and in schoolyards and for no food, no water overnight, or for 2 days or whatever it is, I could never forget that. This is not easy. And I didn't only live it for 1 year. How about the people who really live it day in and day out? It's just the resilience of the Palestinians in Israel is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So, how about the reaction here, Amer? The how the community really rallied and worked together to support the people in Gaza. What do you think of that this time?
Well, I mean, it was amazing. The community reaction was amazing. As you know, and many people listening might know, on Sunday, May 16th, last Sunday, we had a rally in support of the Palestinian people. And it was really a rally in support of Palestinian rights, and it happened to coincide with the annual commemoration of our Nakba, which the Israelis call their Day of Independence, May 15th, which was the time that we always commemorate of the loss of Palestine and the creation of our refugees. On Sunday we held a rally outside the Dearborn Civic Center, and we had 10,000 people show up. 10,000 people, not just Arab Americans. Most of them were Arab Americans, but a lot of other people too, and not just Palestinians. There was Iraqi, Yemeni, Lebanese, Syrian, Jordanian, Egyptian, people from all different cultures, because Palestinian rights are human rights. Palestine is a universal human rights issue. And people showed up, 10,000 people. People saw the pictures, they saw the images. It was an amazing sea of people rallying and then walking down the streets of Dearborn, specifically Michigan Avenue, and letting everyone hear our voices in a large, massive, loud, peaceful way. That's what the community did. I'm so proud of them that they all came out and said, we stand with Palestine, and yelled, free, free Palestine for hours on a Sunday afternoon in Dearborn, Michigan. And then on Tuesday, because President Biden came and, I want to teach everyone if you want to learn a new Arabic word today, I'll be putting out a video today where I'm trying to teach people Arabic words. President Biden came to Dearborn on Tuesday, and he also was asked by a reporter, can I ask you, he came to visit Ford, and he was asked by a reporter, can I ask you a question about Israel? And he said, sure, if you get in front of the car first, and let me run you over. If you want to learn a new Arabic word, another way to say Joe Biden is haywan. Say, everyone listening out there, say it with me, haywan, Haywan, haywan. Okay, and there's a female version of it to it. If you ever see a picture of Golda Meir, haywana. Oh, by the way, the reporters who laughed at him when he told that joke, there's a plural. We can say haywanat. Okay, he came here.
Did he really say that he wanted to run him down?
He said to the reporter said, "Can I ask you a quick question about Israel?" And Biden said, "No, you can't unless you step in." He was in a truck because he was test driving a truck. He said, "No, you can't unless you step in front of here and let me step on it. Unless you get in front of the trunk and let me step on it." And then he said, "I'm just kidding." This is how nonchalantly he takes the death of Palestinians and how much he supports Israel no matter what. He could have said, "No, thank you, this is not the time. There are people dying." And he could have said, "No, thank you, this is not the time. We're here to focus on Ford." He said, "No, you can't unless you get in front and I can step on it." So this is the kind of administration that we are dealing with. Hostility towards Palestinian humanity and human rights. So on Tuesday, we also said, you know what? He's coming here to the South End. We're going to have a parallel event at the same time, talking to him and yelling and screaming and let him know he's not welcome here. We Arab Americans, we are very welcoming, open people. But he was not welcome here on that day. You cannot dehumanize our people and support our abuser and just waltz into our community. And so we let him know. On Tuesday, we had 3,000 people. Tuesday at 1 p.m. in the middle of the day with 10 hours notice. We didn't give people that much time because we didn't know where the location was going to be. 10 hours notice, 3,000 people showed up and said, we are here to let Joe Biden know that we will be loud. So this is a movement. This is not a couple rallies. There's still going to be rallies this weekend. Saturday in Ann Arbor, and they're having ones in Warren City and Rochester. This ceasefire doesn't mean the end of our action. This movement was about Palestinian rights and everything since 1948, not just the past few weeks. This movement is about Americans standing up and saying, we stand with Palestinians. This movement is different because there have been so many non-Arabs and non-Palestinians who have spoken up, celebrities in social media and Facebook and Instagram saying that they stand with the Palestinians. This movement is different because no more are Americans looking at Palestine as a humanitarian crisis. But no, they're looking at it as they should, as a political crisis of oppression and people losing their rights. There are humanitarian implications to this, but it's not a humanitarian crisis. We are not a charity case. This is not an earthquake or a tsunami,
we're running out of time,
or a big storm. Yes, this is a political crisis, and we need to treat it the way we treated apartheid, the way we treated Jim Crow, and stand up all collectively as Americans and keep marching and say, this is wrong, and say, free, free Palestine. Thank you, Khalil, for all your support and everything you've done for us.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. We're running out of time. Appreciate it, Amer.
Thank you. Have a great day.
We're going to take absolutely. Going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937. Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain.
Thank you all for being with us. I want to thank Mike for great production. Thank you to all our guests. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye now.